We get into now topic number one of the conversation on tonight's show. And going back into Jerry Jeudy here, the former Biletnikoff Award winner, All-American, big-time receiver, one of the more captivating players to come through the capstone. Jeudy was featured on a podcast, the Load Management Podcast, on this week, where one of the questions that was directed to him was, which program in college football would you regard as wide receiver U? We have seen where U.S. fans in college football, different players, different organizations, the argument's always been, well, who's quarterback you, and which team is running back you, which team is wide receiver you, which team is linebacker you, and of course you, the Alabama football fan base, are like, well, Alabama's NFL you, because every single player that comes through this program, regardless of position, finds its way to play professional football. But the question thrown at Jeudy was, which school reigns supreme, as wide receiver U? Of course, the young man from Florida answered with, you have to have Alabama in there. It's got to be Alabama, especially when you look at the types of receivers that Coach Saban has recruited, has brought into the program since 2008, how well these young men have done within the program, and then of course those guys going on to be first-round draft picks and exceptional players. For example, you look at the Julio Joneses of the world. Julio Jones taken first round in the 2011 venue by the Atlanta Falcons. You had Amari Cooper taken in the first round of a 2015 venue by the Raiders. Of course, now he's with the Cowboys, but was drafted by the Raiders. And of course, Calvin Ridley, taken in the first round of the 2018 venue by the Falcons. And now we see here Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs III, both of those guys as first-round picks. So, they're going back to what Jeudy was mentioning, you got to have Alabama in there as wide receiver U. And then you have the upcoming season when you discuss Jaylen, Waddle, and Devonta Smith. Both of those two for the 2021 draft will look to be, first-round guys. And both of those guys, defensive backs, defensive coordinators, defensive secondaries, they know what to expect from those two. The fans know what to expect from Smitty and Waddle. Their teammates know what to expect. The coaching staff here at Tuscaloosa knows what to expect. People know what they're getting from Jaylen Waddle and Devonta Smith. Both guys are on multiple preseason award watch list. Both guys are on the Fred Biletnikoff Award list, which goes to the nation's top wide receiver. Both guys are on the Maxwell Award watch list, which goes to the National Player of the Year in college football. In terms of just Waddle, he's on the Paul Hornung list, and that goes to college football's top player in terms of kickoff return, punt return, special teams like things. He's a dangerous weapon there in the return game. So for defensive minds out there, for cornerbacks and safeties out there, the mindset is we got to stop both of these guys, at least one of these two guys, from having a big year. And it's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult because you're not going to stop both of them. They're going to try to stop at least one, if not both, but it's going to be difficult because just seeing what both guys bring to the table, at wide receiver. But the big thing here, and this goes to Holman Wiggins, the wide receivers coach, who enters his 9th overall year coaching wideouts, his second season, at Alabama. This comes down to him where, can he get a third guy to pop? Can he get a third receiving option to emerge? Can he have a third guy step up to not only take pressure off of Smitty and Waddle, but create more opportunities for them to be dangerous, create more opportunities for a Mac Jones to be dangerous in terms of getting his numbers up more from the quarterback perspective, creating more opportunities for Steve Sarkisian as the play caller to manipulate his system even more? Can you get a third guy to pop to put that added fear in the back of the mind of a defensive coordinator, to place that added fear into the back of the minds of corners and safeties, to have them think, I can't afford to double team this guy or bracket a receiver, because if I do, boom, somebody else is going to emerge, attack, and and make big plays. And the big thing for Alabama is it's got a litany of talent on the roster, but the question for you, the fans, is who needs to be that third guy to pop? Because Bama's got some guys, but who needs to be the number 3 guy? Is it John Mechie? Is it Slade Bolden? Is it Xavier Williams? Could it be one of the freshmen? Is it a Javon Baker, a Thiu Jones-Bell, a Trayshawn Holden? Who needs to be that third guy? And a lot of times it comes down to which one adjusts faster, which one pops quicker, which one ends up absorbing all the information and applying it in a way to where Coach Saban and the rest of that staff trust that particular individual. It could be John Mechie. I mean, he's got the Calvin Ridley-esque type playmaking ability. It could be Slade Bolden. This was the Gatorade Player of the Year out of the state of Louisiana in 2017. It could be Xavier Williams, someone of whom not a lot of people talk about, but in practices last year, when I saw him on the field, smooth route runner, solid hands, good ability, a lot of talent. And then you have freshmen in here as well who are starting to cut up and make themselves known on the field, on the practice field, or in these, workouts in the offseason to try to push for playing time themselves, those being the freshmen. But the big thing here for Holman Wiggins is finding which one, who's the third guy, who in this next wave could be the receiver to pop. And when you look at Coach Wiggins, he's a technically sound receivers coach from the people I've talked to. He's on the same par as Coach Mike Loxley was when he was here, and also Josh Gaddis when he was at the program. Probably the main difference between Lox, Gaddis, and Holman Wiggins is Lox and Gaddis were frontline recruiters, right? Their names were always heard as the primary guys. When there was a big-time receiver that Alabama needed to get, Coach Lox was the primary recruiter. His name was talked about. He was on that trail getting that guy. Or Josh Gaddis was on that trail getting that particular receiver. Now, in terms of Coach Wiggins, this is not to say he is not a strong recruiter, because he is. He is a good recruiter. It's just that his name does not pop the way that a Jeff Banks' name has been, or a Carl Scott's name, or a Kyle Flood's name, or a Charles Huff, or a Charles Kelly, or a Freddie Roach. Like, he's good. He just, I guess, hasn't been out there the way these other guys have been out there. And that's a role, that's a part of his game that's going to increase, it's going to grow the more he gets out there, the more he gets affiliated, with the program. It takes longer than 1 year to learn Coach Saban. But in terms of just being a strategically, technically sound wide receivers coach, Wiggins is one of the best out there, especially him coming from Memphis and Virginia Tech prior to Alabama. At those two schools combined, he produced 13, 500-plus yard receivers, including a 1,000-yard guy in Isaiah Ford for the Hokies in 2016. Ford had 1,094 receiving yards that season. This past year, Wiggins did a great job in elevating Jerry Jeudy to be a first-round pick, a second 1,000-yard year for Jeudy, and also elevating Devonta Smith to be the leading man. He showed last year that he can be the leader in all wide receiving categories. Aside from receptions, he had 68, Jeudy had 77, but Smitty led in receiving yards, 1,256, touchdowns with 14, and also yards per game, 96.6. But along with receivers, could the third receiving option be a tight end? That's also a question right there, because you go back to between 2015 and 2018, Alabama has gotten a tight end to pop. You look at O.J. Howard. Clemson had to be aware of him, and they found out firsthand, when we don't take number 88 into account, he will burn us, he will destroy us, he will rip us apart. The same thing, 2018, when defenses did not take Irv Smith Jr. into account, he made big plays. And Alabama's got depth at the tight end position. Is this the year where Miller Forrestall shakes the injuries and he breaks out? You have a Jaleel Billingsley, in the tight end room. He came in as an athlete. He's gotten better as a blocker. Is it his time? You brought in Carl Tucker from North Carolina. He's on the John Mackey Award watching this. Is it time for him? You even got a Cameron Latou, of whom Alabama moved from outside linebacker to tight end. So a lot of options there. The biggest thing for Holman Wiggins right now, what you have in Waddle, what you have in Smitty. Who is the third guy that you can mold, that you can develop, that you can create, that you can have emerge to put that strain on an opposing defense? But we're going to go to our first break here on the show. Don't touch that dial. Just getting your chest warm here. Got to remind you, though, Emily's Heirloom Pound Cakes. Emily's Heirloom Pound Cakes. If you use the code TDA Emily's, you earn 10% off all orders over $30. Link will be in the description. But when we return from the break, we dive into your phone calls, your thoughts, your tweets, your chats, your concerns after this.
Every sports fan deserves the proper representation. Whitwell Sports introduces to you the Title Towel. Wave that Title Towel in the air like you just don't care. In support of Nick Saban and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Only $9.99 and it lasts a lifetime. Head on over to WhitwellSports.com and get your Title Towel today. Touchdown Alabama Magazine is Alabama football's premier publication. A subscription to Touchdown Alabama Magazine is the perfect gift for any Alabama fan. For exclusive news and information, recruiting updates, a free annual print magazine, and more, go to touchdownalabama.com and click join. Only $5.95 per month or pay $49.95 for a full year subscription. That's a saving of almost $22. Go to touchdownalabama.com today and roll Tide.
Thank you for watching Touchdown Alabama Magazine's YouTube channel. To continue to get the best in Alabama football content, subscribe here and turn on your notifications to stay connected with the hottest shows covering your Crimson Tide.